Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Impact Dynamics Live. My name is Rusty, and it's good to be back. And it's Friday night. And so hopefully you are kicking back and have grabbed a beer or whatever it is your beverage of choice. Of course, I'm running on Team Impacts, and we're on. Well, not we are, but I am, and a couple other people are on no booze for the 2-week period. So I am on water, which I seem to have forgotten to get. So well organised so far. Off to a great start. Now, one thing I do need to make mention of seems to have disappeared. Let's get that back. The Long Gun Project. If you massive thanks to all those guys who've subscribed. That's Ben Jarrett's channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, you don't know what you're missing out on. Go and check it out. Subscribe now. I don't mind if you do. Away from it's only going to be me talking for a couple of minutes before we get Luke on. So now is the opportunity to miss out some information. Go and subscribe to his channel and come back. The goal is to get him to 1,000 subscribers as soon as we can, because he's a bit of a legend bloke. All right, that's the Long Gun Project. Go and subscribe to that. This show has got a couple of sponsors because there's a couple of deals for you. The hoodies that we announced the other night for Stage 1, of course, Stage 1 are on board, but the hoodies are on their way, expected at the end of May, and you could be looking that good in them. You can save 10% by using the code IDLive10. And that will save you 10% off. The normal price would be $110. They're at $99 for the pre-order, and then you can save 10% on that as well. And we've had a few starting to come through, which is fantastic. So they're really comfortable, really warm, and nice and subtle in what they do. So ID Live 10, and that is at the precisionrifleseries.com.au website. You can find all that merch there, as well as all the other gear. Gives you 10% off the whole line. Did want to let you know as well, we had another offer from Scoped Out there for these. These are the Leo Photo tripods. And we've had a number of them come in. This is the 364C, which is a brilliant little tripod and really solid. And these are normally $8.95 for the whole package, which is the ball head on the top, the quick release arca plate on there. Look at that, all that sort of stuff. Everything you need to go, and really solid. You can definitely hang guns off that, or use it as a spotter or anything. That's definitely not in shot. Anyway, that's the point. I'm going to put it down because I haven't tightened it off. But they're normally $8.95 for the package, but you can save $100 on that package. There are 2 packages left by using the code IDLive100, and that's at scopedout.com.au. If you are looking for a tripod, they are seriously good. All right, let's Long Gun Project, of course. Tomorrow is the day off, Saturday day off, so won't be any show tomorrow. Sunday night, I want to tell you about Sunday night, but before we get into that, I need to say hello to all the people who are in the chat and have been chatting to us, which is excellent. Oh, Siri's trying to talk to me. Sorry. You can be quiet. All right. Also, shout out to Ironside Coffee. Andrew Lawn has let me know they've got 25% off beans in all sizes and roasts this weekend. So now is the time to go and sort yourself out some coffee, some tripod, and a hoodie to make yourself look amazing. Fantastic. All right. Craig, Charles, Travi, Steve Hurt, Scott, Andrew Lawn, who told us about the Ironside Coffee, Anthony, 2 Anthonys, Brad, Sheldrake's there, Kieran's there, Conservative Sniper Hunter, Scott and Emma is in the house, Paul and Peter and Jimmy and same Paul. We'll give you a shout out twice, Paul. Alex and Dan is there, and Smells Like Butt. Smells Like Butt, we still want to know your name. You got an amazing beard though. Well, maybe just call you Smells Like Beard. I don't know. We'll see. And Dan there as well is saying, cracking tripod. He's been running one for about 12 months now, and they're going well. Alex is here as well, Alex McFarlane. Awesome. Hey, guys, tomorrow night, the beards are on, and we will be doing some sort of a YouTube party thing, watch something or other tomorrow night, about 8 o'clock as well. So keep tuned to the Facebook page for Impact Dynamics, because beards are hugely related to what we're doing somehow. Anyway, good. The first 1,000 to subscribe to Ben's channel, The Long Gun Project, we're going to the draw to win a day out with Ben, apparently. I don't know if that's got the backing of Ben. That's just a comment made here, but maybe it does. I don't know. Reese is here as well. Awesome. Great to see so many of you guys in the chat. Now, 2 more things. There's so much to tell you tonight, and then we've got a huge show with Luke on as well. the Sunday night Q&A is going to be a little bit different. One of the things that we, with questions and answers, you get a question, you sort of, the question comes in, what scope should I buy or something like that. And it's very difficult, particularly on the delay on YouTube or just generally in emails, to get the context to be able to answer that question well. And so Sunday night, fire up Zoom. We're going to put the Zoom number out there so you guys can jump in the Zoom chat sort of one at a time, and myself and maybe one or two other people will be floating around, and we will be able to give you answers to your questions, but within the context of whatever your situation is. So you can say, I'm thinking about getting a scope. I want to do this, and we can go, what are you using it for, and what are you putting it on, this and that, and talk in detail to actually get you the right piece of equipment, the right piece of advice, whatever it may be. So that's going to be a little bit of a different setup. So the Zoom numbers will go up during the day on Sunday, and we will be in Zoom, but on here on YouTube live to do that Q&A. I look forward to that. That's one thing that I dislike about Q&As is because you get a question and then sort of have to give a generic answer to some degree. Also, I know we'll have people asking, so there's been some announcements today at the national level about getting back into sport. So from a PRS perspective, right at the moment, it doesn't change anything. We're not able to run anything or have announce any dates or anything. It's too far out. But what it does do is it does give us a really good pathway to be able to make some work towards. So the next PRS announcement about the season is on the 31st of May, probably about when those stage 1 hoodies should arrive. But the next announcement is for 31st of May. There should be actually some information then as to when we predominantly looking at being able to launch matches. So sit tight, stay tuned. That's the latest from PRS. Speaking of PRS, we are ready to... g'day Brendan and Ian as well, a few other guys jumping in. Right, my guest tonight, if you're not familiar with Luke, Luke was the 2019, I guess still is, the reigning PRS champion. That sounds better, doesn't it? The current reigning champion of PRS in Australia. He's not even smiling at that. Just trying to get there he is. He is a very good competitor, has a very good understanding of what it takes to win no matter what the challenges that are thrown at him, and it's been amazing to watch his resilience across a couple of years of competition. And he's also been quite a leader to others and being able to give his time. Speaking of which, Robbie G is in the chat as well, giving of his time and his knowledge, and he's excellent guy to spend some time with. So we're going to do that tonight. If you have questions, chuck them in. We're going to get into all sorts of stuff tonight. And here he is, Lukus Mckennie. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm going well. Now, we do know that your internet is about on par, or maybe even worse than Ben Jarrett. But we will push on through. We couldn't even get Zoom working, but here we are, and we can see you. So we're off to a good start. How are you dealing with everything being quiet and no matches and all that sort of thing? Have you been doing any sort of shooting or practicing?
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of shooting. I've mainly just got my 223 trainer, so I've been trying to get a load for that and just do some training with that and change a couple of things on it to make it feed a little bit better and so forth. But yeah,
fantastic.
That's about all I've really been doing.
Yeah, excellent.
Not a great deal.
And
not much to strive.
not much to talk about. Yeah. We came across each other at the 2017 Precision Rifle Invitational. That was, I think, where we first met, and you came over and as guest of Crispy, and
correct, yeah,
and then proceeded to win the match.
Yeah,
which is excellent.
Yeah.
And then the first PRS happened in 2017. Now you were there, weren't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was there with George.
And how did you go in that one?
Finished second.
Finished second, yeah.
Pretty
serious, up against Big Mick Stubborn, who brought his A game that weekend. Yeah, absolutely.
He certainly did.
Absolutely. And then, this is all sort of in the precursor to actually being a season run. So 2018 season was was the first PRS season that was running, and can you tell us a little bit about that and how that went for you?
2018.
2018.
Sorry, did you say?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so 2018, I was actually shooting service rifle at the same time. So service rifle, I think there was like 11 or 12 matches. You got to shoot a minimum of 6 to qualify. I think George shot 2017, he was Australian champion. 2018, I was sort of gunning for that, and also hoping to win the PRS championship as well. So I think I ended up coming second in the Australian championship to Simon Ross in service rifle, and I went into the 2018 PRS championship probably equal first, I think.
Yep.
And I think I had a train wreck and finished about 5th or 6th overall. So that was a bit of a disaster. But we've recovered since then.
Oh, of course.
So,
and you've then, as we gave away the ending, you went on in 2019 to win, and you won not only by a little bit, you won nearly every match. I think you only lost one match that you entered, and that was to Crispy. That's right.
Yeah, I came second to Crispy.
Yep.
But, that's all right.
Good.
He's a great competitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
and so I'm really curious about what changed from 2018, where you had 2 goals that you were focused on, and you're wanting to obviously be as good as you can be at both the disciplines that you were shooting, and then shifted to 2019, where not sure of your involvement in service rifle in 2019, but can you tell us about some of the things that came out of that 2018 finale, where it didn't go so well for you, through to the start of 2019?
Yeah, sure. So in 2018, I put a lot of effort into trying to get to as many matches as I could. I think I shot about 14 matches that year. So that was service rifle, PRS, and some side matches here and there. I went to the Australian Championship finale for service rifle a week before the PRS Championship.
Yep.
When I got back from that, it was a big rush. I thought I could do both, so it was a big rush to try and get ready to go to the PRS. Then I found out my rifle wasn't shooting for whatever reason, so I ended up taking my 308, and it was just one big disaster. So even though I felt like I could have achieved both at the time, obviously I was very humbled at the PRS finale. So, to go in there equal first and finish 5th, it wasn't a great feeling. So, just after the match, I was very happy for Ash. He performed, he put on a phenomenal performance at that finale. So, I'm always happy for the people that win. But at that point, I put in so much time and energy and pretty much burnt myself out after shooting so many matches. And I was just sitting there and trying to soak in the pain a little bit, if you know what I mean. Because really the only way to turn it around was to just refocus what I needed to do to correct it, because everything seemed like it was going well, and then I think it all became too much. So at that point I decided, well, I'm chasing 2 birds here, so I need to just drop one of them and focus on one.
Yep. And
obviously my heart's with PRS, so I followed that and dropped service rifle. So so going from that finale, basically I think we had a conversation at the pub where you asked me if I was going to come back the following year, and do you remember what I said to you?
I'm not willing to admit anything about any Sunday night of any match ever at all.
No.
I think you were going to come back and you were going to win it, is what you said.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to come back and I was going to win. And at that point, I wasn't really sure on how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do it. So I just went home and I made a decision like, okay, I have to change everything, because at that point, my confidence was pretty much a bit battered and I was at a low point. And when you get into that sort of situation, like it's easy to have confidence when you're winning, right? You can gain that momentum. But when you're coming from a loss, and to me it was a big loss, but something that this is my life, shooting's my life, so I put a lot of time and energy into this. And to get that result at the finale was pretty damaging for me. So it was a bit of a wake-up call that I needed to take a different approach. So I came back home, and literally the day I got home, I started training, and I just started looking at my weaknesses, and I just had a blanket rule, like I'm going to change everything for the better. So literally I changed almost everything to make things better, and I needed to gain my confidence back. So that training that I was doing whilst everyone else was like in the off season, well, I was training during that time, and I was building confidence. And like when people ask me all the time, like what should I do, or what should I use, or whatever, I always say to them the same thing. It's like, do whatever gives you confidence, because that's the thing that you need the most. Like, it's when we talk about this sport, we talk about how it's very much a mental game, but I think a lot of the time when I ask people, okay, well, if it's a mental game, what can you tell me about the mental game? And they say, well, you just got to be positive. But that's not really an effective strategy when you're losing all the time, or something terrible happens. Like, you can't be positive about everything. Like let's just say you lose your job, or your family member passes away, or something like that. Well, how are you going to be positive about those things? You can't be positive about that. But there's things that you shouldn't do, and that's being negative, right? And being negative is very damaging. Like, I think you're aware that, like, during the 2018 season, and I'm not shy to talk about it, but like, I suffered from anxiety a lot. Like, it was really debilitating for me to go to matches, and it's almost to the point where I was saying, like, well, what's the point of me even turning up if I can't even put on the performance that I want to put on? And but I always said to myself, I'm never going to give up. I'm just going to continue, and eventually I'm going to overcome it. But I went and saw sports psychologists. I spoke to athletes. I went to town on trying to get to the bottom of the problem. And in the end, I just had to change my perspective on it a little bit. Sort of make it sort of like an ally rather than something that I was trying to get rid of all the time. And now when I go to a match and I don't feel anxiety, I almost get a little bit worried that I don't care enough about winning to win the match. So yeah, it's funny how that's flipped on its head a little bit.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Yeah. Is there to make anxiety your ally is such a big turnaround from, I remember speaking with you through 2018, and anxiety was a challenge, and to turn that around and actually make that in some ways a strength is pretty phenomenal. What are there practical things that you did that perhaps someone may be able to, if they are struggling with the same sort of thing, be it in shooting, but most of these principles you're talking about can be applied to whatever area of life you struggle with. Is there any practical sort of suggestions that you came across during that period?
Yeah, so there's two main things. Like, one, I remember when I was driving to the match, my hands would get all clammy, and it'd feel like my feet was hollow, and your hands shake and stuff like that. And I would normally try and push that away. But a friend of mine said to me, he goes, if you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes, and it's all a matter of real perspective on things. So I thought, well, I'm not going to try and push this away. I'm going to try and provoke it and bring it closer. And so I just started trying to think of things that would provoke it, and eventually, it sort of just became normalized. You know what I mean? Like I almost needed it there to as a driver to perform. The other technique which I sort of came across by accident was music, and on one particular kind of music was country music. So like those people that are at Monardo, sort of at the, I think it was the start of last year, I was saying, someone's in the bathroom and they're listening to country music. You know, that was me. But,
so the big,
you know,
the big secret
I
of
like
when
to
you've got your
listen to it
headphones in,
because
what you're listening to is the secret is country music.
no, not all the time. No,
Okay.
that was just I had that playing out of my speaker. But
Okay.
but so I sort of felt like I wondered why country music was helped me in that situation, and I think it's because when you listen to country music opposed to other music, it actually sounds live, like it's an acoustic style of music. And so to put that to the test, like there's one of my old favorite bands was Linkin Park, and they made a record live in Texas. So I thought, well, I'll listen to that and see if that does the same thing. And it sort of did do the same thing. So, you know, like when they say depression's living in the past and anxiety's living in the future, well, I think it's the music that brings you back to the present. And that was sort of my takeaway from that.
It's an amazing connection to make to draw it to live music, where as you talk to anxiety in the future and depression in the past, whereas live music, when you go to see live music, it's happening right there and now, and then to listen to it, knowing that it's a live concert or something that seems like it could be playing live to you, it's a fascinating way to get centered on it, and I suspect that the way that plays out for individuals would be very different. But that sort of something that you can connect with to bring you into the present moment, perhaps is the key element.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. So you came back to your session, and you said you changed everything in that period between 2018 and 2019. Equipment as well, or processes, or sort of to what extent?
Sorry, mate, I lost you there for a second.
No, sorry, just saying to what extent was that change?
Yeah, right. So I moved to a KRG chassis. Before that, I was running the Manners. Through like self-diagnosis, I sort of found that the length of pull on the Manners was too short, but the KRG I could change the length of pull and really just set it up for me. I felt that a lot of times when I was running, you know, the Manners had a shorter length of pull, I would come off target a lot easier, or my body would be skewed, and you know, the rifle would always come off target, so it's hard to see impacts. The other obvious benefit is that you can like get the forend and then use that to sort of clamp your hand on a bag when you're shooting off a barricade or tank trap or something of the like. Yeah, but you know, and I think I ended up putting a rail or something on the bottom of it as well, so you can move the bipod backwards and forwards. So it's very adaptable compared to just running a stock. I think I changed calibers. I changed from 6.5 Creedmoor to 6SE to lower the recoil a little bit. I was mainly looking for consistency. I wasn't trying to break the sound barrier or anything like that with velocity. I was just mainly looking for something that's going to be more consistent. And again, like that comes back to building confidence. I sort of wanted to make everything move towards confidence. So that was another thing that I did. What else? Processes. So I started to draw up processes on how I would approach each, let's just say, like a stage or a barricade or a position, something like that. I'd go through every single one of them, standing unsupported, sitting unsupported. How am I going to approach a barricade? How am I going to move? What bag am I going to use? You know, am I going to run a secondary bag as support? Do I have to do that? You know, how much does it affect me in time? What's the bag that's going to give me the most stability? You know, and then just like stage tempo. So like we typically move into a stage when we first start out, and we do it sort of at one speed. And I see guys like move into what I call a state of hysteria, where they'll just go through and they'll try and get it off as fast as they can. They might have 30 seconds left, and they could have used a lot of that time to make a lot of impacts. But what I tried to do is say, okay, break it down into a couple of blocks. If we're moving to, let's say, a barricade, we want to move to the barricade maybe like 1 time speed, and then when we're taking our shot or we're settling the rifle, you know, we want to operate at, say, 1/2 time speed. But then when we transition, we want to move at, say, like 2 times speed, because we can make up some time there. And so that's, I just call it stage tempo, and it's just where we want to use, say, like a time budget to put the most amount of time into the most important part, and that's taking the shot. Yeah. So just a lot of things like that. You know, I probably changed a lot of equipment at that point. I think first barrel was like a Hawk Hill. I was running the Terminator brake. That's a great brake, but it was giving me a lot of concussion after, you know, maybe 50 to 100 rounds.
Yep.
And so that's something that I had to sort of get rid of as well, because I was just getting headaches, because it's really good at stopping recoil, but at the same time, it's got a lot of rear concussion. So I went to, I think it was Inside Arms, which had a first one was a side port. And just little things, just even 1%ers, you know, anything that could give me an advantage, just went back and I changed everything in that regard. Yeah.
I guess there's some element, and you touched on it there, about moving to confidence, where you're taking that questions about equipment out of the equation, and so you're knowing that, right, I've spent time behind this gun, this chassis, this bag, this whatever it might be. It's not that. It's not because I'm using the wrong bag, or I've got the wrong barrel, or something along those lines. Of course, you know, you've spent that off season to I guess confirm and test, and then once you hit the season, did you change much during the season in terms of equipment?
Not really. I just went back to shooting a dasher. Like I was shooting a dasher, I think, in 2016, but we never had mag followers back then, so
gotcha.
You know, it caused a lot of dramas during matches for feeding issues. But when the mag followers came out, you know, that's a caliber that I really like. I've used it for a long time, shooting, you know, bench rest and so forth. But yeah, so that's really the major change that I made, was I went back to a dasher, and I don't know if there was really much else. I sort of had a lot of it sussed out by the time that I got into the season.
That makes perfect sense for what you're doing, is using that off season to check and confirm and test and build confidence in the gear, and then go, right, you know, it's now the season. And so I guess that's where I want to lead into, is so that the 2019 season kicks off, and so what does it look like for you to prepare for a match? You know, to say it's a mental game, and clearly that's a big part of it for you. What does it look like in the lead up?
Yeah, so just going back for a second,
Sorry,
like when
for it.
no, you're right. The reason that you probably want to make sure that you've got everything sorted beforehand is because, as you said, you want to hold that accountability yourself. You know, when you go to a match and something doesn't go right, you don't want to be blaming that on anything else or anyone else. I mean, accountability is really a massive thing. You know, you hear guys all the time come up with excuses about things like, you know, my barrel's fed up, or my barrel's gone off, or my barrel's dead, or something to do with the barrel. And really, at the end of the day, that's your fault, you know, and you got to almost say, well, like I say to myself, everything's my fault. So it doesn't matter what it is. I always try and take accountability myself, because what happens is when you start blaming other things or other people, you give that accountability or the power to change that to that thing or that person. So knowing that everything is going to run flawlessly is huge, and then the onus is on you. So yeah, when you're coming into the season and you know that everything's going to run flawlessly for you, that gives you confidence. And then obviously when you've got that confidence, you want to try and start building momentum. So for me, leading up to, say, our first match, I probably start 2 weeks beforehand, just trying to like prime myself in get in the zone. And that's predominantly just trying to create a healthy mindset. I guess I just block out all negativity. Like, I won't listen to the radio, or I won't listen to the news or anything that might come past me that's negative. I try and avoid, people that give off a negative vibe, because that can really bring you down. Like, I don't think people really grasp how much negativity can really affect you. And it's like, I was having this conversation with my brother like a couple of months ago, and I was trying to tell him, like, when you think something negative, you're like 4 times more likely to have a negative outcome. When you say something negative, you're like 7 times more likely to have a negative outcome. And he was like, I don't know if that sounds right. And I'm like, it is, and a couple of weeks later, it was just by sheer coincidence. I was listening to a podcast, and I think it was Trevor Moawad, or I'm probably butchered his name there, but he's actually a mindset coach for athletes and sports teams around the world. And it was like listening to myself verbatim, like word for word what he was saying, and I wasn't far off with the numbers, but that's just how I felt, and that's how in tune I feel with having that correct mindset, so that you can come in and you can operate at, say, an ultra level of concentration, because that's really what it's all about. You want to get to that ultra level of focus, so that you can put in your best performance and give. You want to sort of want to get to that level, but not keep it going the whole time, because you'll just burn out. So
yeah,
it's just targeted, I should say. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, and so actually, you mentioned that. I was going to ask you about some of the resources or the influences that you look to, be it podcasts or anything along those lines. Obviously, from there's shooting influences and interests, but outside of that, what are the ones that keep you on track?
Yeah, there's like Tom Bilyeu, Jay Shetty, even a bit of Gary V.
It's one of the ones I like.
Yep, what you like?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many. Obviously, Tony Robbins. He's probably like the godfather of them. Who else? I'm just trying to think now.
Yeah. Put you on the spot with that one, but yeah, certainly some good names there, and I think that you find that it's good that a few of those different names.
Walter.
Sorry.
Walter Bond. He's a really good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's often different styles, and what I've found for people who are like checking that out and looking into that side of things is that if they connect with the person, that means everything. Listen to, because there's a few of the guys that the names that you said there that I've listened to, I've tried to get into, I don't connect on any serious level. But then you mentioned Gary V before, just his rawness I really respect, and so you can learn. Many times they're talking very similar things, but they present it differently, and it's important to keep that influence. I think I've actually got a rule that I commonly at the moment go for a walk at night for our fitness challenges and such, and I will not listen to a Gary V podcast at night, because otherwise I'm awake for the rest of the night until some stupid ungodly hour of the morning doing things. But I think it is important to have that consistent level of positive influence, no matter what area you're into. Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, like, everyone's sort of saying the same thing. Like, I resonate with a lot of these guys because they say things that I already believe in, and you can word something 10 different ways. Where essentially everyone's sort of saying the same thing, but it is, in my opinion, like very undervalued, especially in the competition scene. Like we have a lot of very talented shooters competing, but then if you want to get to that next level as a competitor, which you might be an amazing shooter, but where do you stand as a competitor? Well, the mindset side really comes into play when we're looking at it from a competitor standpoint.
That's a really really good distinction to make. No, you're right. A really good distinction to make between people who are good shooters and naturally good shooters versus actually being a competitor. And raw talent gets you to a certain level of competition, but it doesn't necessarily take you over the way. And you've said to me, hopefully it's fine to repeat it, but you've said that you're not a particularly naturally talented shooter, not in significance, but you generally will just work harder.
Yep. Yeah. So if you look at anyone that's really ever been like a ultra successful athlete over the course of history, like your Michael Jordans and your Kobe Bryants and Arnold Schwarzenegger and whoever else you might like, these guys, they all have one thing in common, and it's just their insatiable work ethic. Like they might be talented to an extent, but that didn't get them to where they got to. Yep. You hear stories about Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant being in the gym or out shooting hoops like at 4 a.m. in the morning, like what everyone else is sleeping or out partying or whatever. It really does come down to hard work. Like one of the most talented shooters I've seen is one of the competitors that I shoot against. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but this guy, he's very talented, and never won a match. Now I suspect he probably will win a match at some point, but I'm just trying to draw a distinction between how far does talent get you, and then hard work just comes and takes over. And I think at this point, some people make the argument for, some people are just naturally talented, or they've got better genetics, or just anything, like people like to make excuses why they can't be as great, and they like to put people on pedestals. But I think at this level, if you're not doing, like if everyone's not working out 6 days a week or training 6 days a week, and they're just going from match to match and basically doing their loads the night before and going to the match the next time, well, essentially they are just relying on talent.
Yep.
So, if you've got the motivation, then you can go out and train and outwork that person, and hard work will always beat talent. That's sort of like where I stand on that.
Look, if you by the way, Emma Stevens is assuming she's the one you're talking about. Just putting that out there. So have you been watching?
That's why I said he.
So I thought that was just cover. Have you been? Are you familiar with the Bull / Michael Jordan documentary, the Last Dance? Have you seen that at all? You've been familiar with it? It's only recently.
I have. I've only watched, I'd say, 2 episodes of it.
Yep.
I would actually like to watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
But as you know, my internet hasn't been real great of late, so.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's just for anyone watching. Like, I'll back that as a fantastic documentation of one of the most serious competitors of our lifetime. Of where hard work and focus and drive was everything, and obviously to do that 6 times over, it certainly came good. Luke, we've had a couple of questions come through, mate, so we're just going to jump into them for a few minutes before we delve back in.
Yep.
Now I've got to find them. There's been a few comments going on. There was a question about your training rifle. Are you 223? about what you're running
Yep.
them and the details on that. Are you able to give us a quick rundown on what that rifle is?
Yeah, sure. It's an impact precision action. I've got a Krieger 1 in 7.7. I'm running 80.5s. They're the Berger full bores.
Yep.
80i brass. It's in KRG Whiskey 3 with the forend, enclosed forend. I don't have a brake. I'm just trying to simulate the recoil at this point.
Yep.
Obviously, got the Nightfall scope on top, and what else have we got? Accurate magazines.
Sure. Yeah, nice.
Yep.
2018, Ian was because you won the 2018 Steelpocalypse at Little River.
Yes.
I think it was the match, your first match you won in the PRS.
Yep.
And he's believing that you did that with a 308. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
I did it with a 260.
I was thinking, I mean, that would be a big win for 308s, but I didn't think you had quite gone to that level, taken it to that level yet. There's still time.
Not quite. No, I shot that match with Danny's 260.
Yeah, but it was a borrow. You did shoot. You shot the finale with a 308, didn't you? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, but that wasn't
Yeah.
specifically the reason for the weekend. No, were you?
Yeah, I didn't go out of my way to use a 308 if that's what you're asking.
Absolutely. Robbie has said, why should everyone in the PRS refer to you as the Wizard?
No, jeez.
You have a knack for getting guns to shoot, don't you? Is that where that's derived from, or is there more, do you wear like a big hat and put on a fake beard on your weekends?
Yeah, no, I think it's from my low development skills, but
it was one of the two.
Robbie,
it was one of the two.
Robbie came up to my gun room and he said, "This is where the magic happens," basically, and he wrote Hogwarts with the D on the end on my door.
I think he may have referenced that, yeah, or not the spelling error, but anyway, good.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's still there.
Good stuff. So there is another question there from Alex, but it's a wonderful question to lead back into what we're talking about. Let me find it. Have you always been competitively focused, or was it shooting that brought that out about your nature?
That's a really good question. I've pretty much been like this my whole life. I played basketball at a high level of athletics. It's not the first time I've said something to someone like I said to you at the pub that I was going to do something and I did it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was quite young, we went on a trip. I think it might have been to Mildura, and they had some athletic runner up there, and it was just like a carnival thing. And this guy had won this race like 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And I was young at the time, and I had to get permission to go in and so forth. And I just said to my dad, I'm going to win. And he's like, "Yep, rightio." And so I just went out and won. And that was probably when I was only about 6 or 7 years old. So maybe a little bit older, maybe about 8. But since a young age, I've always just believed that I can win. I honestly believe I can do anything. To me, it's not about a question of if I can or I can't. It's just about the time and the energy.
Yeah.
Like going to the PRS to win there. It's like I already decided I was going to win. Now I just have to work out how I'm going to do it and how much. You can really achieve any of your goals. You just have to work out how much time and energy you can put into it, and the sacrifices that you're willing to make. That's my belief anyway.
I would agree because you certainly can do things that beyond what many people would think possible, but it is a matter of it's always nice to go, I'm going to win that, but then to back that up with the work that takes, because it's not a matter of just going, oh, I'm going to think positively about achieving this.
Yeah.
There are hours and hours and hours and blood and sweat and tears to
Yep.
whatever significant achievement it is, and no doubt you're representing that with your achievements.
Yeah, and like I said, like it's. I think people view success as if it's something that people get off a podium, and like whenever I see people win, like I always try and make the argument that no one's ever really won on match day, or in business people will talk about a 10-year overnight success. It's they say it takes 10 years to make an overnight success. Well, I don't like. I see success as something that's like a lifestyle that you will follow. So, it's really comes down to a question of like, is this going to bring me closer to my goals, or is it going to bring me further away from my goals? And so, you always have to ask yourself that question with every decision. That, okay, this thing's going to bring me closer to my goals. This is going to bring me further away. So I'm going to do this. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes with sacrifices and things like that. But if you're very passionate about what you want to achieve, then it doesn't really matter, because you're really just chasing that fulfillment from achieving that goal.
And we saw that anyone who shot the matches in 2019 saw that play out and saw your focus and your determination at matches. But one thing we certainly did see, or I saw a shift from 2017. You've always had a real heart of wanting to see others do well, and then that's also been sometimes butted up against being ultra competitive, and I saw in 2019 a really good balance of those two things, and I don't know whether that was conscious or whether you had found a happy medium for those two things to sit side by side, because many people may not know, but many do, that it's not uncommon for you to give away prizes that you pick up off prize tables. In fact, it's almost standard, without like setting the bar for you or anything, but it is. It is. I know of prizes that you've given away that people don't, that others, or you didn't do it publicly in any way. You've just walked back and then given it off to someone later on. And so I know that your heart is there, and the time that you put in with multiple shooters who are close to you, but I know that you are ultra competitive, and we saw that, I guess, that shift particularly last year. Was that a conscious change at all, Luke?
Well, I guess it's two different things. Like, one, I don't want to win a match because someone didn't turn up. I don't want to win a match because someone had a bad day. And it's just part of the community, really. Like, you're at a stage, and maybe you shoot first, or someone else shoots first, and then it's very common to come off the stage, and I'll say, hey, like, that wind's actually going harder than you might think. And you might give someone a win call. They might come back and give you a win call. So, I want to win against the best. So if you can help uplift everyone, make everyone a better shooter, and lift the competition, that pushes you higher as well. I try not to measure myself against other shooters, because essentially at the end of the day, a lot of people will say, well, I just want to be number one, but being number one just means you only have to be better than number two. And so you might just be just ahead of number two, and that's as far as you need to be if you really want to be number one. What I try and say to myself is, I want to be the best shooter that I can be, and that's where I'm going to reach my, let's just say, potential.
Yep.
In the long term, and maybe the byproduct of me being the best shooter that I can be is that I become number one regardless, but it's not that I'm going to be just ahead of number two. It's like I might be, 10 steps ahead. You know what I mean? But even like giving away prizes at the matches, I really like get fulfillment from that, and sometimes winning. I'm not trying to sound arrogant or anything like that, but sometimes winning is just not enough, and like maybe sometimes I'll make a deal with myself. If I win, I get to give a prize away, and I get a lot of fulfillment from that. Because I'm not going to probably appreciate that prize as much as maybe someone else will. And so that's just another technique that I can use to stay in that ultra level of focus when I'm shooting the match, and that's just as much a reward for me as it is for, whoever's receiving the prize. And I don't think I've ever really given away a prize to someone that didn't sort of deserve it or isn't putting in the hard yards.
Yeah, I certainly noticed. And that's why I think that success means different things to different people. And it can be multifaceted as well. It's not a matter of I want to win the match, or I want to do this, or I want to hit this goal in business. It can be multiple things that can mean success that may not make sense to others.
That's right.
Get a lot out of it. Now, earlier this year, you ran a training course about as a fundraiser for the Buchan community. Sorry, mate. I just think I think we're back on deck. I think we had a connection problem from here out to YouTube, not your end. And anyway, so you ran a fundraising training course for the Buchan community, and I know that some of the feedback that I got told about, they told me, but anyway, that was about visualization. We actually have a question there from Alex about that. That's something that you don't hear a whole lot about. Just walking down the shooting line and listening to people talk. What does that play out like in a shooting match for you?
Okay. So there's a bit of brain chemistry going on there as well. So like your brain can't really tell the difference between whether you're experiencing something for the first time, or if you're recalling your memory, or if you're visualizing, or even if you're dreaming, right? To your brain, it's all the same thing, and I'm going to push this point. If you've ever woken up from a nightmare, what have you felt? You felt probably terror, right? Well, that never even happened, but you still had that feeling. So your brain just can't tell the difference. Now, when we visualize, like what I do is if I'm at the match, I'll visualize at the match, or if I'm at home, I might visualize a result, and maybe I'm leading up to a match and I might be visualizing myself winning the match, right? Again, like that's just going to give me the confidence. Like it's almost like saying, well, I've already done it, so I know I can do it, and it just leads it more into planting that seed and removing that doubt, because you can already see that you've done it. Whereas if we're at a match and we're, say, on a stage, right? I use it as a technique to like run through the stage. So like to give you an example, I think there was a stage in the NT when we shot a match there, and there was probably like, I don't know, 7 or 8 different targets that you had to change. You had to change position and engage this target at this distance, and then change a dope again and engage another target, and it was quite involved. It was to the point where I had one of those e-dopes, and usually I have it on landscape, and then I had to put it to portrait just for my data on it. So there's quite a lot of lines of data there.
Yep.
And so what I did was, like what I normally do, I either get behind the binos or behind a spotter, and I just talk my way through it. So like I'll just make a sound in my head, or I'll just go, beep, and I'll talk myself through it. So I'll say like, I'll put the rifle down, throw the rifle on the bag, all right, point the rifle to the target, and so on and so on. Just talk my way through the whole thing. What elevation am I going to give it? How much wind am I going to give it? Then bang, impact, or you even talk yourself through corrections. So like sometimes I don't even when I'm visualizing, I don't say I'm going to hit the target every time, because I want to be conscious that if I miss, I want to see that impact. So I'm always trying to play it out as if it's happening already. So I did that probably about 5 or 6 times, going to that stage, which is really like complex with different data and everything like that. Shot the stage, cleaned the stage, came back over, and I looked down on my matchbook and my e-dope was sitting there. And I was like, what the hell? I looked at my rifle and it wasn't even there.
Yeah.
I hadn't even used it. So because I'd visualized that stage that many times, it was already second nature to me. I didn't need any data, or I didn't need to search for what I was doing. I was just concentrating on like wind and what's happening downrange.
Absolutely. It's amazing how powerful and significant it can be, and you know, I use it in other areas of life, and I'll attest to what you're saying, that it makes big changes. It certainly allows your belief level to rise as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, very good, mate. Very good. Now I'm just going to see if there's a couple other quick questions here, because I know we are running out of time. But is there any books or particular books, being the you know, audio books, podcasts, or anything that you would highly recommend for people from a mental side of things?
Yeah, probably Tom Bilyeu. He runs a podcast called Impact Theory. That's probably the most notable one, in my opinion. You know, like there's a lot of really good content out there, but like I said before, it's most of it really is saying the same thing. Like, you know, I was saying a lot of this stuff before, you know, we had podcasts and everything like that.
Yeah.
You know, where did visualization come from? Like, I used to visualize when I was a young kid playing basketball and things like that, and it was actually comforting for me to hear that other people did it as well. Because it's not really something that anyone talks about, because you don't want to sound like a bit of a weirdo, but it turns out to be, it's a very powerful tool in my opinion anyway. But yeah, so I don't know, I would say like Tom Bilyeu is probably the number one guy that I would go to. I think he's got a really good way of explaining things that you know, comes across. Yeah.
Excellent. I think you're right, and that's why it's so great to have you on, Luke, because not so many people in this sport not enough people talk about this sort of thing, and I think there's an element of people understand that it's a good thing to consider. But you know, if I'm sure I'm not overstepping, but saying for you, it's been the difference of going from shooting and doing well to really doing very well.
Having a healthy mindset, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's you know, it's great to I'd love to, you know, hear more conversations about it from others, because it's such a significant part of shooting. We back in when we were running training, we added an extra, you know, the fundamentals of shooting. We always had the last fundamental as focus for, you know, a compacted version, because they were relatively new shooters, but a compacted version of talking about visualization and talking about keeping focused on whatever it is you're doing. And I tell you what, that was the one fundamental that made some of the most significant difference that we found.
Yeah. Well, even sometimes it could be something as simple as like keeping your ego in check, like, and it can go both ways. Like, you know, people can receive, let's just say, some criticism or whatever, and you know, they might be here, they might be happy, and then someone tells them something, like it might be an insult or criticism or something like that, and they start feeling like they start letting them let themselves get too low. And so that really brings people down. But then the reverse can happen, and like, you know, it's really hard to win matches consecutively, right? Especially if you don't have the right mindset, because what happens is typically, you know, you win, and then all of a sudden, like, people say, well, I'm the champion now, so I don't need to go and train, and people forget about how hard it is to win. And some people think it's easy, but it's just not. So you know, at the other end of the spectrum, you don't want to let yourself get too high either. So when you do these posts on Facebook and people say, well, you're the champion and this and that. And that. Okay, they're all nice things to hear, but at the same time, you have to, I would say, remain humble and just remember it took hard work to get there, to get that result. So don't forget that. And at the same time, when people are trying to bring you down, you ask yourself, like, is that actually true? Like, am I going to give credence to those let's just say insults or that criticism, whatever? And just on that note too, like, criticism is really should be perceived in my eyes as a good thing. Like, if someone's willing to give you some criticism, I feel that a lot of shooters, or not just shooters, but competitors in all sports, they sort of receive some criticism and it almost feels to them like it's an insult, And I think it's important to differentiate between, well, what's a criticism and what's an insult, just cutting straight to the chase. Like, an insult's basically where someone's agenda is to bring you down, and a criticism is where someone's agenda is to bring you up. And I try and seek criticism as much as I can, and I'm not too big or proud to turn away criticism from anybody. Like, if someone can help me get better, I'm going to seek criticism from the people that can help me. So I think it's really something that we should go after and not let our egos get in the way and say, well, who's this person to tell me what to do or teach me and so forth. Because we don't just we don't get there by ourselves. At the end of the day, like, we're putting in the hard work, but it's also like, who are the people we surround ourselves with? Like, what environment are we putting ourselves in? What are our influences? Yep. They can be positive influences or negative influences. Well, it's hard to thrive when you're in let's just say a negative environment and you've got poor influences. Well, if you can change the people that you surround yourself with, and you can change the environment that you're in, then now you're in a new headspace, and now you can thrive. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, I can't remember how we got onto that, but it's spot on. Yeah.
Anyway.
Very good, mate. Very good. Look, there are a couple other questions, but we're pretty much out of time. So, Luke, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experiences, and we look forward to 2020 kicking back off at some point, sometime soon.
Yep.
And hope to see you out there. I don't know. You haven't told me at any pubs that you're going to win this year, so I guess it's still up for grabs. Still up for grabs, or maybe all the pubs are shut. Maybe that's why. But anyway, fantastic.
The pubs are shut. Anyway.
You sound so devastated. Yeah. Oh, excellent. No problems, Luke. Well, always a pleasure, mate. And actually, one thing before we go, guys can follow you at Delta Tactical Precision Rifle Team and Practical Rifle Training. Delta, if I got the names right. Delta Tactical Practical Rifle Training.
Yeah, you got those names right. Yeah, and
cool.
Like, anyone can hit us up and ask questions. Like, we have people sending questions all the time, and it can be anonymous, and we try and give people the feedback that they're looking for. Yeah. So that's something that people are interested in doing, and they're welcome to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So guys, make sure that's on Facebook, isn't it? Are you on Instagram at all with that sort of things?
I think George started up a page, but mostly on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on Facebook, Delta Tactical Precision Rifle Team, as well as Delta Tactical Practical Rifle Training. While you're there, go and like Delta Tactical also. Because of reasons, and also subscribe to the Long Gun Project. So I look forward to all of it, guys. Luke, thank you so much for your time, mate. It's great to see you. Great, always a pleasure to chat to you. And at least this time it wasn't until 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, all good, mate.
Likewise, mate. Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. That was a full episode. Definitely worth going back and watching that a couple of times. There's some gold in there. So. Look forward to you guys being able to suck on a bunch of that information and put into play this year, because it's one thing to watch these shows. The important part is to grab what you can out of it, and once this season is back up and running, or in whatever part of life that these topics are relevant, go and put into practice, because you will see the Luke particularly, but others we've spoken to have are high-level achievers, and we've got a number of them lined up next week as well for you, and there will be lots of lessons to be able to go and put into whatever life looks like for you guys, as well as the PRS matches coming up. Quick little shout-outs, of course. Got the still got 2 tripods left scoped out where you can save $100 off the package, bring it down to $795 for a tripod, ball head, and Arca mount. Use the code IDLive100 to get that, and of course at the precisionrifleseries.com.au website you can grab stage 1 merch, including the new hoodie, the stealth hoodie that is coming out at the end of the month. You can save 10% using the code IDLive10 off the already discounted pre-order price. Wonderful. Excellent, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you Sunday night. Get your Zooms ready. It's going to be a very different Q&A. We'll catch you then.
Hey, hey. Pretty baby. Pretty baby.